When you write, do you sit in front of a computer, like specifically trying to come up with material?
Never did it.
Really?
I never wrote jokes, ever.
Do you write ideas? Or do you just write bullet points?
I write it down like one word, because I need to write on stage. It doesn't, if I write off stage, it comes out writer. Mm-hmm. And then it's like you're using your hand to write. And then you're using your eyes to read it. Yeah. And then it's coming out your mouth. Right. So when I have an idea, that moment where you go, oh, it's a bit. It's fucking maddening, but it comes when it comes. You're in conversation or you're in the car or wherever. Yeah. You go, fuck, that's a bit about about zoo lions. Yeah. And I avoid thinking about it. I don't want to work it out. I just write down zoo lions, and I know that it's in the ether. I know the general feeling, and I wait till I'm on stage that night, and I explain it to them. And the audience is there as a target. Yeah. So I for the first time work it out, and then it's like that's the bit, because I know I can't think straight as a comic unless I'm on stage. Did you develop this process over time? Have you always done it that way, or did you initially try to write the jokes out first? I could never do it. I was a bad student in school. I didn't go to college. I barely graduated high school because I can't do work like that. I can't. I mean, I learned to do it when I started working in TV and movies. But when you're writing scripts and stuff. Yeah, I can write when I have to. But I have a huge agita problem and many D's and H's and and all that shit. So I would just do little set lists, and that's the way I always did it. I never wrote. There's no written word of my act. It's because your speech center, when it generates the work, it's where it's supposed to come from. Right. It's a spoken word art. Yeah. And then I do a lot of work. I record every set, and I listen to them. And I work on paper, but it's kind of like research. I listen to the set, and I write notes. Like this last whole tour I had to do because I had to come up with the material a little quicker. But I write notes about what worked, what didn't, what's innovating. That last set was funny when I did this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. Yeah. And before... if I take a break of 3 days or more, before the day of the show, I sit down and I write a set list. Even if it's identical to the last one, I listen to the last show I did, and I write down tonight's order. It's like the lineup for a baseball team. Yeah, I always do that when I do arenas. Yeah. What I do is I get index cards, and I'll actually write the bullet points for each bit, and I lay them out on the coffee table in the green room. Mm-hmm. I get there early, and I write all that stuff out. Good. Because that way I'm good. Like my head, I know I remember it. You got to load it in. You got to be living it. You got to be it's got to be refreshed. Like I know I just did a set last night. I'm ready to go. It's not. I'm not unconfident about it, but I know that the right way to do it is to sit down and to write down on these index cards and to set them out and have all the punchlines, because the fucking thing that drives me more nutty than anything is like when I forget a tag. It's a shame. And then I leave and I'm like, fuck, I forgot that part about the guy. Yeah. And then the rest of the night, it doesn't matter. Like everybody's standing ovation, great show. Like no, the tag is gone. That's everything. They didn't get it. Destroyed. Yeah, they missed it. Well, it's because your brain, like I remember my mom was in computers when I was a kid. She was a computer programmer, like when they were punch cards and stuff, like from the beginning. My stepdad did that too. Oh yeah? Yeah. And then she had a terminal at home with a big modem, with a phone going. Oh wow! And so she taught me about computers, and the thing I always remembered was that there's main memory and then there's auxiliary memory. So auxiliary memory, I might be getting the words wrong, is stuff that's on tape, that's stored. And main memory is it's like RAM. Right. It's the working, buzzing, loaded into the hopper, what you've got working. And then you have stuff on tape and you can access it anytime you want. Oh, remember this. But you're set from the times you've been doing it over and over again. It's kind of on tape. Mm-hmm. And when you're on stage, your brain goes and accesses it. But doing like the cards before, it loads it into the RAM. It loads it into the present moment. Because especially when you're doing big things like an arena, you get adrenaline, and you start thinking about the size, and then that's nowhere. There's no help there.
It's all negative.
Shouldn't be thinking about any of that
at all.
The thing you should be thinking about, you shouldn't be thinking about what do I need and all this bravado stuff of like I'm going to be a star or like I'm going to kill.
That's the worst.
Death. The only thing you should be thinking about is cows.
Right.
You're talking about cows. You shouldn't be thinking, this is my bit about these cows and here's what's gotten a laugh before. You should be thinking about, here's how I feel about cows.
Yeah.
You should be in the feeling. My favorite shows are when I feel very present.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're because I studied, but sometimes they're because I haven't been on stage in a long time and I'm having to remember. And I go, yeah, fuck. And I get the feelings get a little more real.
Yeah. There's also a little, sometimes when I do too much stand up, I lose a touch of enthusiasm. And sometimes it's actually good to take a day or two off and then I jump back in and then I'm kind of excited. And there's
that's why like I'm doing tonight what do you call it?
The Moody?
The Moody Theater in Austin, and then tomorrow again, and then San Antonio. And I just did New Orleans and Mobile. It's 5 nights, which is a lot for me. And then I go up to Baltimore and DC, but then I take 2 nights off before the Garden. And that's a pretty decent amount, 2 nights.
Yes, that's perfect.
Yes.
So you'll be juicy when you
I won't
get back.
think about my set at all for 2 days.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll work out and exercise. I kind of train for this stuff because my feeling is the show has to be great. That's my responsibility. If you're not in shape, then the show is as good as your luck, right? If you have a good crowd, you'll have a good show. And if it's just a good night and things line up right, you'll have a good show. But if you leave it up to that, you're a fucking asshole. If you're in shape and you have wind and your mind gets clearer when you're in better shape and you try not to eat sugar and stuff, then no matter what, the show is going to be great. If the crowd sucks, I'm just going to have to work a lot harder. It's not up to them how good this show is. It's just I'm going to have to put in a lot more fucking effort. So I need to be healthy enough that when they suck, I'm great, and that when they're great, it's out of the park. It's complete.
I remember you telling me about this back in the day where you used to run. You used to run like you're training for a fight.
Yeah, I do. That's what I'm doing right now. Yeah. Today I was on the steps machine for an hour, and I train for however long. I try to do the steps machine for how long the set is I'm doing.
Oh wow!
And I watch Ali Frazier fights or
shit.
Yeah, I watch 15-round old fights, and I pick a guy that I'm him, and with the level of the machine, I follow his effort.
Oh, wow.
So when Ali's back is on the ropes, I go down to 5 a little bit, and then when he comes off the ropes, I go to 6, and when he starts firing away, I go to 8.
Oh,
and I go up
interesting.
and down a lot.